Hello and welcome to Low-Code Campfire. This is the episode number 195 for Friday, May 16, 2025. Today's main topic is lend a hand. We have two advanced submissions for your consideration. Perhaps you can help. I am Dale Warner, head of support for Plantin App, and we're going to dive right in here. Low-Code Campfire is an opportunity to get together, talk about Plantin App and low-code in general. The projects that you're working on in specific. And so together with the regular attenders of Low-Code Campfire, perhaps we can solve problems while you're here. This is an all skill levels welcome meeting. So if you're watching on replay and you're intimidated, don't be. This is a great group of people. We record all of these and put them on YouTube. YouTube.com/plantinap is our channel. So you should definitely subscribe and hit the alarm bell so you know as soon as these are posted, which is Low-Code Campfire is usually the same afternoon as the episode. We run this agenda week by week where we stop and say hello because we're a friendly group. And then we'll go around the campfire, anything that we always do first call. We always do anything you've submitted in advance. But after that, we'll talk about contributions to our Campfire website and community, and who knows what we'll get into. After an hour or so, we go into our Afterglow segment. That's where we turn off recording and just hang out for a few more minutes, enjoy each other before the weekend starts. So glad you're here. You can submit questions and topics in advance. You can use this QR code, or you can send an email to support@plantinap.com. Just say it's a suggestion or a question that you'd like to talk about in Low-Code Campfire. So with that, hello.
Hello there.
Hello, team. All right. Did anybody
Hi,
come?
everyone.
Hey, Dennis. Did anybody come with a first call today? Something you want to cover first?
I was going to go do the looking myself, but I'll just ask the question because it may be something very quick. I'm interested in building an event management system in Plantin App for somebody and then potentially share it with other folks, and was wondering if somebody had already done that. Is there, whether it be a contribution, or I know there was talk of some kind of an exchange system. Was wondering if somebody had built an event management registration system.
So to part of that, there is the marketplace will hopefully someday be the place where that kind of thing could be shared as a total solution, but the marketplace is still a ways off. So to my knowledge, there isn't a solution ready to go. Sounds like a good use case though.
Cool. All righty.
And I've built something that sells tickets to events, does a little bit of management of the seat numbers, but it doesn't go any further than that. I don't know if that helps you or not.
It might. I'm still kind of pulling the specifications together. There's an existing system, but it's pretty much a Frankenstein type system. It's built off of several different pieces of old DNN type modules. And I'll need to go in and create the specification. Then I probably should pitch it and see if there's some pieces that people might be able to share. Then I'd be happy to share it back once we put something together.
Well, I'd be happy to help you if I can.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, same. I think it would be kind of an interesting little project to be able to help with a little bit. So by all means, bring it.
Alrighty, we'll do.
All right. So a couple of things. Low-Code Cafe is switching to a monthly schedule. I mentioned that last week. So the next episode is planned for May 28. I don't know what it will be yet, but we'll do something. Hopefully be a good one. So, Mark, you had thrown out something that was interesting, and whether or not we actually get into the links that you shared is another question. But just wondering if you solved the problem that you had, and whether you have any insight in it, want to talk about it.
It is not solved. It is also not clear if this is a me issue or if others can see it. I know Dale has tested it and has not seen the issue that I'm seeing, so that makes it a little bit more of a still unknown. The issue is that I'm using a listing in cards view and I'm loading an image in the column that says image. And on my computer, the image loads fine. I just give it a URL, it loads fine. On my iPhone, it loads partway and stops. And it has done this reliably for me, and it has done it for me in front of a group of people, which was quite embarrassing. But so I'm trying to figure out, why does the image load partway and stop? And if we were to test it today, it would be helpful if there were some folks in the room that had a similar setup, a physical setup to me, to verify if it's the phone, if it's the browser, or if it's the operating system, what could it be? So in the room, if you're willing to do this, do you have an iPhone? Anybody have an iPhone they could
I do.
load a web page with?
I do.
Okay, yeah. Well then, if you don't mind, I'd like you to do that. I've got the links ready in chat. I'm hitting the button now. You'll need to load this on your phone, actually, to run the test. There is a quick and easy way to get there that you don't need the links, because I realize you're not watching this meeting on your phone, most likely. So on your phone, what you would do is open Chrome, if possible, and load photojudge.pro. Once you get there, there's a button you can click on that'll take you to the final result. Dale's got that page loaded for us.
The QR should get us there too.
Oh, great.
Let's see if
I didn't think of that. That takes you to presentations 2. Okay, so if you followed my directions and you're on your phone and you've gone to photojudge.pro, you would go down to the lower right-hand corner. There's a button that says presentations. Please touch that. Presentations. It'll look just like what Dale's got up on the screen. Possibly. If you touch my button, you're going to get presentations, not presentations 2. Looks like Dale's showing number 2. So first test, those of you that got to the presentations page, hitting the button on the website, did the image of the logo load fine? Like that.
So you were seeing a partial load, correct?
That's if you go to presentations 2.
So just for fun, one of the things that I was thinking about, you were seeing a different result, and so that now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering what the underlying HTML is. So I'm going to investigate that as we go along. So this is what you on presentations, it's a image sourced to a particular file, which is, and I'm just wondering. So this is your HTML that you provided, and then presentations 2 is the one that's based on our card template, right? So wondering if we're seeing it.
Good. Good idea.
So let's duplicate this and go to presentations 2. And if
Looks good there.
Yeah, now you haven't had any problem on the desktop version, right?
That's true.
So it's an image. It's got
I'm
some.
seeing it just fine.
Which one are you looking at, Dennis?
Presentations too.
Okay, thank you. And iPhone? Good.
Yeah.
And
iPhone Pro 11.
Chrome?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Would you just try reloading the page several times, 4 or 5 times, just to make sure it comes through every time? This actually
sure.
is a little bit intermittent. 1 out of 10 times I will see a good image. The rest of the 9 times I'll see a half an image. And I can show you that too.
I'm seeing the image on both presentations and presentations 2 on my iPhone.
Okay, can you see this? That big white rectangle on my screen? That's
Can
what
you see a big?
happens pretty regularly. That is more than half of the image is just plain white.
Got it. I'm seeing the full image.
Yeah, I'm
Logo.
seeing the full image every time.
Thank you, Don. Okay. Yeah, it's as my wife would tell you, that's a me problem.
So
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm just looking for. So this HTML is the one that came from that you did, right? From presentations. We're looking at the HTML from presentations 2. It's still an image. It's got this content here. So I don't know if this is valid HTML.
You can take it out,
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
I understand. This one is the one that our card is generating, right?
Yes.
And I don't know what um, this looks like. It should be I don't know what it is. Content HHC 32. We have a class here, a source, and all. Makes me wonder if that's valid HTML. What is? So let's copy this and ask my intern. That's not what I intended.
Maybe you need to paste it a little bit incomplete, like without a closing tag or something.
The element. Oh, that's your good one.
That's true.
All right. Slow down. Here it is. Here's the one I want to care about. Copy the element.
What?
Um, so far, did we arrive at this is only Mark is seeing the symptom in question?
Yeah, I'm not seeing a problem when I view the image, and I've refreshed the page many times. and
I've
it
not
looks
seen it
fine.
either.
Thank you guys for testing it.
Yeah, not a problem.
Certainly.
So, yeah, I mean, I can investigate this too myself and not use everybody's time today. It was helpful to have several people test it with me. That's already been helpful.
How about I just drop this, and so you can see where we started. I started talking about it, had some suggestions to look at, so
Okay,
I'll drop that
good
off.
deal. Well, that's a nice thing about this group. Have other people with like minds to give it a shot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the way that I have already made it work reliably is to do what's in presentations without the two on the end. And that's just to move the image into a regular column instead of making it the specified image column in the view settings.
Mm-hmm.
So if it happens to anybody else, just move it to a different place and let it show there.
Yeah, so it certainly does suggest it's something particular to the way that the HTML is being rendered by our card view. So the difference between, I mean, maybe that particular line or the HTML it's wrapped in. So maybe doing an investigation of that whole image section. But yeah, that seems odd.
So this one is still a ghost.
All right. Well, let's see if there's a part two.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Jim, I see that you're here. Do you want to take up your discussion from you submitted the topic in advance? And
Sure. Morning, everyone. What I'm laying out is I have an application where people have different collections of like trains and different scales. So they might have multiple collections. And we have where they want to share that collection with different people, but depending on the collection they are working in, they would have different access. So standard roles of letting them be read write or something like that doesn't really work. So because on collection one, they may have a different access than they have on another collection. And I was just looking for, I'm assuming others have run into this kind of situation and was looking for ideas how people have solved that. I mean, I'm going, all right, I want to use something like roles. I don't know if there's a custom roles table that I could implement or a custom roles function that I could implement, where these are all in one database, in all the data, a collection data, all these collections are in one table where I just have to filter it out by the user. So I was just looking for some ideas on how I might implement that.
so while that perks, I have a question for you, Jim. Are you trying to use SQL commands, or are you trying to use the Plantain app?
Well, I would like to use Plantain app just and cut down on my time, but I'm not afraid of using SQL either. So, there's some nice built-in functions and, in doing it with Plantain app. So, I mean, I would probably, use the Plantain app function on a table as a, admin type function that would go across all the collections. But
so I had the benefit of having a little time to perk on this and have some ideas, but I don't want to jump in front. Anybody? And I'm thinking this sounds like something Jerry might have done in the past. I don't mean to call you out, Jerry. I'm just, well, yeah, I guess I do. But it is an interesting problem.
And I'm sure Ben that has a script somewhere, that does this, but he's not here today. See?
There is that. So
can I ask you a question?
sure.
Jim, are you allowing access to folders directly somehow? These look like folder permissions, folder file permissions.
Yeah, so the table would have a link to an image file that would be on a folder, but the images, I haven't thought that far into it about how to secure those. I was going to secure the image at a table level, having the link to an image, but I haven't thought about how to secure the images on the share if they're in a file or if they're going to be in the database somewhere. Probably.
Are you also going to be managing and storing and managing the file names themselves in a Lamp and App table?
Probably. Yeah.
Well,
haven't got that far into the design yet. So.
Well, my first thought is it appears that we're looking at read-write permissions to a folder. And if you're going to be managing the files, names, and locations in an entity, the tool that you use to display these images is probably going to be a plant and app listing, maybe a form, depending on how you do it. You could set the permissions in that tool that set which ones of these files they can see and interact with. Like if you've got a listing, you can put it in the criteria or the data section of the listing settings to say who's allowed to see what. And you could also do it in the column level, with permissions. So I guess I'm saying you might not need to manage the folder read-write permissions. You might instead manage it at the display level.
What about access to the table itself? So to allow, different people, different levels of access based on the record they're reading and or trying to access in the table. Just do that through a SQL query.
Yeah, through the SQL. You could also do it in tokens, right there in the listing. If they have a certain level of permission, they can see a column or they cannot. It could also be right down to the item level. If the data of the column has a token in it that's evaluating their permission level. So you would also need additional entities that would be storing and managing their permission levels.
Right.
And it could be associated with roles, but it could be elsewhere.
And that's what I was thinking is like I need to build some sort of custom roles table that's a collection ID, a user, and their permission in that collection. So I thought about, okay, I could do that with a token and put that into every query. And I was really hoping that Dale was going to come back and say, well, we have this undocumented feature, that's, lets you turn on this secondary table, but he didn't do that right away. So,
so it's his turn. Go ahead, jump in there, Dale.
So there is no secret undocumented feature.
Oh.
But no, I was going in the direction of if you had for row access, the way I think about this is with if whatever that secondary table that you said had collection and user and permission into it, if you had a token that for a given user read all of if the result was a comma separated list of all the collections they have permissions to, you could use that token when you're doing read. So I would focus for me. I'd focus first on read access. So let me show you what I came up with. Something like this. If you came up, if you did SQL where you where may read collections is a comma delimited list of the collections they have permissions to, and then you insert that. You replace this with it's got collection 1, collection 4, well, C1, C2, C. So then your select could be very efficient, like when you're displaying a table, or when you're doing the grid, the listing, you could include their specific token, which could be cached, right? It could be quite efficient to get their list of the collections that they can read. And then in the same way, anytime you're doing a write, you would have to include a where clause to say that they can only the things that they can write, and that would be a separate token. So kind of with 2 tokens, now you've got some work to do to create the tokens to return a comma delimited list. But
no, that works. And that's sort of the way I was thinking about it, and that is that that would just mean that, okay, I can't use any of the built-in plant and app functions for.
Yes and no. If you're doing a listing that has has an entity as a base, there's a where clause, so you can do that same same token in that. Create list from, or excuse me, the read all trains would have that same where clause, so you could insert the token in the where clause. The place where you run into trouble is like update, partially update or update. There isn't a where clause in those, so you would have to check in advance to see if they have. I'll do a manual check to see if they have rights to be able to make that update, which could be done by comparing the collection. You'd have to read the particular item, get the collection ID, and do a comparison, kind of as a true false step in advance.
Okay. And I mean, I'm thinking this should all be done, whatever the solution is, should be done on a back end, not try to just use it to hide a button or something like that. Or, like if you had an update button, don't try to do it in JavaScript or something to hide that button if they don't have permission, because that seems very hackable to me. That,
Oh, yeah. But you could, if you with the appropriate tokens, I think you could show hide the button.
Right, but that would be like just for the visual part of it, but not the actual security would come from something in the back end. Okay.
Speaking of security, you're still storing all of your files in a unsecure folder.
So what's the workaround there, Mark? How do I fix that? Or do you have one?
Well, that comes back to the way you started your question. You were attempting to manage the read and write access at the folder level, and that would be required. And if you wanted to ensure that someone couldn't guess a URL for an image that they're not supposed to be seeing. Now, it may be that it wouldn't matter if a few people guessed a URL and saw an image.
Right.
But you'd have to work harder if you really wanted to secure it totally than what we've talked about so far.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I have not built an app in the past where I needed to worry about keeping users data isolated that way. So that's why I'm just sort of brought it to this group because of the experience here.
So if couple of thoughts, the image could be, if you're letting them upload images, you could make sure they get GUIDs as they come in.
That's what I was going to do. That is just like, okay, here's a GUID, and have a table cross-referencing a GUID to an image, to a file name. And not maintain the actual image name.
Yeah, and then potentially, I don't know if the images were stored in a secure folder and then only revealed, so copied to a public place or revealed by way of a link click for people who had the permissions. So I mean, yeah, I agree. It requires careful thought. Those are just kind of some techniques that are possible.
Okay. Well, this is still on paper, so that, you know, that could be another follow-up in a future campfire. I might could bring that question back once I get to that problem in reality.
So Jim, I've shared the research that I did so far on that. That's in the chat if you want.
You have a very helpful, intern.
I have gotten very used to that. Absolutely. It's not as good as Patrick, but it's what I have now.
Okay.
So jumping on to a couple other things that I wanted, actually, before, well, I'll do this one because it's up on the screen. Beta is continuing. I don't know that there's been any reported issues from outside of Plant and App, but yeah, we're continuing to work forward and trying to make this a good release for you. Anybody have any comments on version 1.27? Okay, so before I go on to my topics, what else do you have? All right, here we go. I had fun. I built an app or a little add-on this week that shows me on my now third screen a very quick visual of things that I need to know whether or not there's a ticket waiting, and I also had it automatically play a sound when something comes in the queue, so it gets my attention without overwhelming me. So we get a nice visual. Let's see, I could probably move something into the queue just to see what it does. Let's do that. So the idea is just a nice quick at a glance. I know that something's waiting and I can get right onto it, but I also wanted it to play a sound, and so it does that as well. You probably can't hear my sound, so you didn't hear that, but it did do a little tick mark.
I did hear it.
Oh, you did? Good. All right. So not that this is particularly Plant and App, but it is useful. So I wanted to just put it out here so that it's copy and pastable. And you can, if you wanted to get to that, you're welcome to. This. So I've got it on a form. If you click, it'll play. This is using some low code, but this is with an execute JavaScript, and then that same JavaScript code can be a button on a listing. So if you want to give a nice positive, somebody clicks something and they get a audio experience as well as the activity, or maybe when it's done doing some work or whatever, you can play a sound. So put that out there, and then combining that with Mark's long ago contribution of clicking a button through some JavaScript. That's how I activated my my little dashboard here. One thing I found, and now this is a question back to you guys, that the browsers do a really good job of stopping that unless you've interacted with the page. So for me, I have to click the activate button, just interacting with the page, so that when it, before that, it runs the JavaScript, but the sound doesn't play. So if anyone has knows anything about how to thwart that, but browsers are trying to thwart it, trying to keep you from throwing up a bunch of sound that's not safe for work, I think. So first of all, anybody using this? Does it sound useful, or you're already way ahead of me?
So I have an inventory program that users walk the aisle of the store and scan barcodes. And every time they scan a good barcode and it processes it, does it sound like what you just, what you did? It's actually, I had a hammer hitting an anvil, and they would move on. But if it got a bad scan, or it didn't know what an item was or something like that, it played a different sound. So so they could get there and know to stop and, hey, we have an item that, it's a manufacturer changed a UPC code or did something that we didn't catch and isn't valid data. And so that was my usage for this technique. And when we'd be doing store inventory, you'd hear this tap, 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 whoa, as somebody found, but with 5 people counting at the same time in the store, everybody in the store knew that somebody found a bad item.
Yep.
Well, I did something like this. I started something like this. I was working on an app, a website app that would report to parents if their school was going to be on you might not know what this is in Texas, a snow delay or a snow day. It would it would alert the parent that, what time they actually had to get their kid ready for school or not. And I was asking a parent, I said, this is really cool. It lets you know in advance. I said, is there anything that you would really like this to do that it's not doing? And this one woman said, well, yeah, I would like it to wake me up if I need to get my kid ready for school and let me sleep if I don't. And this actually, I was thinking, well, how could a web page do that? But so I was picturing an alarm clock on the screen on a web page, and I could trigger it to make a sound if it determined that that child needed to go to school. And it was using something similar to what you were doing. But that was actually a couple years ago that I was working on that, and I haven't worked on it since. So I didn't know that the browser was going to put a wrench in that plan and not let it be heard. So it's interesting.
First, and so again, so if they've interacted with the page, the browser um, will give permission. So, for example, if somebody wants to bring up the snow day alarm clock and set a time, that it would be fine, right? So long as the page continued to load overnight, that kind of thing. Vagaries of the internet might come in there that could be annoying, right? But so long as the page continued to load, they would be fine. It's if they haven't interacted with the page at all since it initially loaded. So, for example, I tried to use your technique to push the button at the point that when the page loaded, and it's smarter than that. It knows that's not a real click of the button. That's a JavaScript click of the button, and it won't play. So there's probably some smart way to do it, but not that.
So how
Anyway.
are you getting, if you don't mind, how are you getting it to beep when something comes in? How does it know something came in?
So in this case, there is a hidden button that gets pressed every 30 seconds. And so the form is refreshing, essentially. So the form is going out to SQL and looking to see, are there things in the support queue? And actually it's right here. It's not a hidden button. I have it here so you can do it manually, refresh.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just checking the queue at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Gotcha.
I get the visual changes and now, you go way back to when I did the domino game, that the pusher had the ability to talk to, to set up a communication channel with a browser and to get activity so that you could send activity to a particular browser. And that still works. I have a test that still shows that works. So you could do that technique as well, but I'm just doing a polling technique.
Thanks for reminding me about that pusher. I'm actually working on something similar, and I would like to revisit that. What's the concept behind your pusher? How does that do its magic?
So Pusher is an outside service, and you register. So the browser comes in and registers with Pusher and says, "I'm here," and so when you do something, when you do something, let me find it here. So when you do something on one browser or whatever your source is, it would signal to Pusher to see if it's listed that way. Co-browse. Got. Oops. So you got two browsers, and if you want to, just for fun, let's see if it works still. Anybody wants to play along, you can hit that QR code. But the concept is you say tell and send. Oops, too many fields. Oh, wrong one. Let's try again. Wrong button here. So the send button is something else. The co-browse is the one that's talking by way of Pusher.
That figures. I pressed the wrong button.
And so this one is set up to go either way. That when you click the button, it'll go on the form. I don't know. Did anybody else play? If you did, you should be able to fill in.
Well, Interestingly, I have Dale Warner showing up on my phone where I have scanned your link.
So if you type in email or a message, for example, and hit co-browse, it should come back to this one as well.
Yeah, that's what I did.
It's not reading. Oh, there it is. Good. There it is. Nice. So it still works. So the concepts are there. I can reveal this if you want to spend a few minutes sometime. I mean, I'd be happy to dig into it now if you want to. That's no big deal. Let's see how did we do this?
That won't be necessary for me, but maybe for someone else.
Okay. Well, so the
Appreciate
concept
it.
is there. If you register some JavaScript tokens that I did to make this work, and then the payload goes out through Pusher. So you're sending JSON through Pusher. It's being received on the other one, and then it's getting applied to the fields through Angular, I guess. It's all JavaScript.
I was working on something similar. I recently spent some real quality time of a couple days with your assistant and worked out push notifications on my server.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said the pusher, I'm like, wait, what are you doing? That might be easier than what I did because it was arduous to get set up, but now that it's working great.
Well,
How is that different than somebody, I don't know, Jerry worked with somebody at your organization, I think, and they fixed it up so we could send push notifications whenever events happened, uh, like people were watching videos and it would send push notifications to our mobile phone app.
right, and I haven't um, I haven't used that one. I think that's through Google, right?
Hey guys, sorry I was away multitasking and I
Yep.
heard the word pusher that got my attention fully. um, Dale, I use the Firebase action and module to do
Mm-hmm.
my push notifications. Everything else is handled internally by us, Dennis. How we store things into a table, and then there's a listener waiting for something to happen, and when he sees that, then it passes it to the Firebase. So again, sorry, Mark, I came in late on this, but um, it's
So
yeah,
Firebase is
it's
handling um,
the communication between us and the push, the Firebase system, which is Google.
right, and so your mobile application um, it has some interaction that it has to do with Firebase to know to retrieve or to accept a message when it comes in, right?
Yeah, I mean, and in theory, it's this simple. Things happen, and I throw a record into a table. There's a automation program that's watching that table, and when it sees something that gets its attention, it takes the proper information and passes it to Firebase via the plant app action called Firebase. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, from there, that's where the transmission to the person's telephone happens.
And that could be an iPhone or an Android, it doesn't matter.
And
Yeah,
does it send it
it,
like as a text or
it's
it's a message of some
No,
sort?
it's a
no, it's
just like a push notification that you get from your drugstore or from
Mm-hmm.
anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a true push notification. It's not a text message or an email or any other type of communication, but that's what Firebase does. That's its whole operandi and intention is to do push notifications.
Mm-hmm.
And Dale, it would kind of like we would do a server request and or some way to do a post or a communication through an API. But the brainiacs over at Planta App created us a complete Firebase action that handles getting the bearer token and everything. So it's a beautiful action.
Just for clarity, though, the net result is that somebody looks at their phone and sees a message from you.
That is correct.
And it might have a URL or information or whatever, but they
Yes.
receive a visual. Yeah. And so
Can you see those, Dale?
Touch the screen and wake it up again, Dennis. No, can't see it. Oh,
yeah.
About
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
yep.
I see that.
And then when you tap on one of those, like, there's one on my Mercedes where my wife didn't lock the car, a lot of companies use that service, and it sends it, you tap on that and it'll take you into the app and show you what that push notification was about.
Yep.
Could be from anybody. It's not necessarily, related to our particular mobile app.
So it fits it into the normal constraint of or normal pattern of what an iPhone, what a mobile phone does.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Exactly.
And so there's all kind. I think that's one I need to explore further. I know that we have it. I know you guys have used it. I haven't figured out. I haven't worked through it, and I haven't a use for that. The one that I just demonstrated, Pusher, is it's similar, right? You're still using an outside service, but you have a different control over the payload and what to do with it. So instead of it being fitting the constraints of what a normal phone does, it's more it's a separate set of tools. Not saying better, just separate set for a different use case. And in either way, you're using an outside service that has contracts and plans and costs. For sure, I think is probably more.
Just to add into what you just said, though, if you have direct access to your server and you can follow some directions, you can set this up on your own server without the need for an external service.
Yeah.
Because the pusher is JavaScript. You create a JavaScript server that waits for instructions saying it needs to push. It gets triggered, it sends it out to the browser, and there's something there that's waiting to be pushed, and it catches it. So I use this on my own server without an external service to advance slides on a slideshow presentation that I control with one computer, and it advances whoever else is looking on their own computer or phone.
Nice.
So it's not text, it's an instruction that says, hey, go do something, go advance the slide.
And can you say at a high level what you had to do on your server? I mean, what's the?
It's actually turned out to be simple stuff, but it took several days to figure out with help. It essentially, you put a couple folders on the server hard drive somewhere. I had to open up a port in the firewall and had to put some JavaScript on the server in a file, in several files inside those folders that I made. And the JavaScript was provided with lots of errors from ChatGPT, but together we hammered it back into something that actually works. And
Yes.
yeah, so that's simple stuff, but it can make a folder and get the JavaScript, put it in the right place. So it took some effort, but it was worth it. I have a fundamental problem with subscribing to monthly paid services. So if I can get around it, I work pretty hard to do that.
Nice. All right. In the few minutes that are left. There was this, let me clear out some stuff here. Play a sound. Okay. Tokens and custom validators was a question that came up this week on the community portal. And I am pretty certain that you can't use tokens in that spot in a custom validator.
That was my inclination as well, Dale.
And you hate to chime in and say, no, I don't think so. But yeah, I don't think it's in that context. The validator is some JavaScript that's running. I'm not sure it doesn't get the context. And part of what you can see that, he said, this works, checking a user with this email address exists already. This structure, brace is not our token construct. And if it was available, I'm sure we would have used that when we set up this validator. So I don't think it works, but it kind of brought up another, I suggested, didn't get any feedback from the user, but I don't think it would be that hard to set up an API that could do pretty much anything as a custom validation in the on-change click event. And then it wouldn't be built in like a validator, but it wouldn't be that hard to set up.
I like the API suggestion. I think a lot of that could also be done in the action stack on the submit button, just with regular actions as well.
Absolutely.
It's a choice.
Yep. And if you want the immediate feedback, that's the trick, right? But even, as we've talked before, that can be a hidden button with a on-change click, so you can still get the impact that you want without having to go deep into JavaScript. So lots of possibilities. All right. I think we're there. So with that, I'm going to thank you for showing up week by week, and this week in particular. We'll do again 1 week from today with a new episode of Low-Code Campfire. Thanks, everyone. We will see you next time. Hang around for Afterglow if you like.